when I got burned, that the helmet liner of my helmet melted into my scalp, and a small part of my helmet melted into a part of my ear. I have scars on my leg because I took the skin off my leg to rebuild my hands, because my hands were burned. And my walkie-talkie, I tried to call for help, and it burned up in my hand.
You mentioned your gloves that actually melted.
Yeah, they were a soft type that you use in the lawn, working in the yard. And after that happened to me, I bought new gloves. Because of me, with my injuries, they knew that they needed better equipment. So they got new gloves, new helmets. It was really a plus for me to see that. And I tell you, it's good to be alive, because it was a terror, absolute terror.
We should have been trained in high-rise fires. The helmets that we were supplied weren't up to the par what we've got today. I mean, we had guys who went into fires and the helmets melted down around them. Denver had enough radios for everybody.
In one 5-month stretch bridging 1980 to 1981, the Strip experienced 3 major hotel casino fires. Caesar's Palace, where Don Warren's helmet had melted, the Hilton, and of course the infamous MGM fire.
85 people lost their lives in that fire, 84 the day of the fire, and then a year later, within a year, another person died, and 85 people lost their lives in that fire. We had, I don't know, in fact, I've lost track of the number of firefighters that were injured. We had firefighters that were in a hospital for weeks. In fact, someone called me and said, you know, I can't believe it, I just called the hospital, and the only people left in the hospital from the fire are firefighters.
It takes a disaster before you ever have anything to be improved, and right after the MGM fire is when we started getting, you know, better equipment. We ended up getting more manpower on the department. The union said, hey, look, you know, start pushing for the manpower, start pushing for the equipment, because we were shorthanded on a lot of the fires that we went into and fought back then.
Despite the high risk, interest in becoming a firefighter was substantial, attracting an ever-expanding variety of rookies.
I moved to Las Vegas back, first time 76, then I came back in 79. I found it hard to support myself. I was living off my credit cards. I went back to doing accounting, which they were paying minimum wage for, and I really could not support myself. And I was a lousy cocktail waitress. I tried that, and they laid me off after a week. So there wasn't no other way to make to support myself. And so when I was down at the county board, I signed up for all different kinds of jobs, and they sent me back a card saying that I qualified to take the test to be a firefighter. So I started taking the written test, and then I went down to do the physical agility, and all I saw was men down there. And I thought that was a lot. I grew up in the military. I didn't think of this not being a job that women were involved in yet. So after I came down from the ladder, and I had finished the physical agility, the aerial ladder, the guy looked at me and he says, you know, they're the first woman that ever passed the physical agility. And I says, what? You mean they don't have women on the fire department? He goes, no. I says, nowhere? And he said, no.
Although it was quite an achievement to make it into the fire service, the paycheck was another matter. The union fought for a fair wage so the firefighter could focus on one job only.
Back then they offered longevity as basically a stipend for you as to get you on, because the pay really wasn't that good. I remember for 2 weeks work, my take-home pay was about, on my check, was about $147. And I told Ed Beeman at the time, who, like I said, I grew up with, I said, we're going to have to get another job. We're in trouble. This job doesn't pay very much. And we did. And for the next 25 to 27 years, we had 2 jobs, and sometimes 3.
When When I came on in '81, I was the first woman firefighter in Nevada that was paid, you know, full-time paid position. You really couldn't support yourself on it, but you could work that in another job and do all right.
So we were always out there as soon as we'd, get off from the fire department. We'd either be pouring concrete or framing houses, and that went on for a long time. And certainly that was the interest that I had, as far as within the union, to become more involved. What could I do to help us out, to become more active, to receive higher benefits, and not only that, to get the protection with safety equipment and everything that went with it.
Part of the union's responsibility was to negotiate with the county. From 1984 to 1998, the union's team faced Cheryl Miller, Clark County's Director of Personnel.
Obviously, the county had issues that were important to them, as did the union, and each tried to be mindful of the other's needs. Actually, we had a very positive working relationship. I started negotiations with them pretty much by the second or third day that I was the director, and we bargained very successfully, mutually satisfactory for a number of years. But of course, the union, with all their political power, had a lot of opportunities to convince management to give them things that they wanted. Pay was a major subject area, working conditions, and benefits.
The fire service gradually evolved from strictly fighting fires to being the first responder to a variety of emergencies. New safety issues arose, which the union pursued through collective bargaining.
And the union came to me and quite upset that firefighters were what we would consider an injury on the job. They were paramedics, and they would be exposed to whatever disease, and they couldn't get the treatment paid for by our workman's compensation. And I said, well, if they won't pay for it, we'll pay for it. But the union brought it to my attention, and I don't know if they've, if anyone else would have, but they did. They're the ones that came forward and said, hey, we're not going to tolerate this anymore.
Back when I came on, we didn't wear gloves when we treated a patient. There wasn't, the threat of HIV. We never thought of what a toll it could take on us personally by helping someone else. Even we didn't have ear protectors at first, so that when we went to a call, we was hearing the horns and the sirens and all the noise, and eventually they realized we were losing our hearing. So we also incorporated that into our physicals. The unions asked that we have physicals every year, and we were seeing the hearing loss. So they got us ear protectors.
As the decades passed, many improvements were made, but there were always more to be addressed.
When I came on in 1989, I think I was in the last school probably that got to ride tailboard. We call it, on the back of the truck when you're hanging on for your life. And, incredibly unsafe conditions, I recall one time driving out to, on the back of engine 21 with another fireman. We're holding on. We're going all the way out to the end of the county, and we're on the back of that rig on the freeway. It's raining, and then other times I'd be the only firefighter on the engine, me and the captain. There was no four-man engine crew. I didn't have my own radio. There's so many things that have come positively in regards to safety.
At that time, the department was typically running with 2 to 3 members on these units, and a lot of times that's just not enough people to get things done. So there was a safety issue, and the law was passed called minimum manning. The county was looking to hire firefighters. We needed a complement of 4 people on a unit like this one here, this pumper. So they needed a lot of people. I was in college at UNLV. It's 1989. I was 22, and I always, like a lot of young boys, I wanted to be a firefighter. And so they had a test, and I took that test. They gave a huge opportunity. It's a chance for you to do something great.
Besides increased staffing, higher wages, and improved safety equipment, the union vigorously pursued health insurance and benefits. For those who needed them most, they were of critical value.
I met my husband on the job.